Picture an ancient human 30,000 years ago. No job, no boss, no alarm clock, no money. So what on earth did they actually do all day? You probably imagine a brutal, non-stop fight for survival, scavenging every second just to not die. But the truth is almost the complete opposite. In many ways, your ancient ancestors had more free time, more rest, and far less stress than you do right now. Let me show you what a normal day actually looked like. Here's the discovery that genuinely shocked scientists. When anthropologists went and lived with the last hunter-gatherer tribes on Earth, people still living much like our ancestors did, they expected to find exhausted humans working themselves to death just to eat. Instead, they found the opposite. These people spent only around 4 to 6 hours a day actually getting food. The rest of the day was free. Researchers started calling them the original affluent society, not because they had lots of stuff, but because they had something we have mostly lost: time. So let's walk through their day. It begins with the sun. There was no alarm clock screaming at you in the dark. People simply woke up naturally as the light slowly grew, when their bodies were ready. No rushing, no commute, no inbox full of messages. They would stretch, sit by the warm embers of last night's fire, and slowly come to life. The morning was unhurried and calm. Just imagine that for a second. Then came the food, and here's a myth to bust right away. It was not all about hunting giant beasts. In most groups, the majority of the calories actually came from gathering, and that was done largely by the women. They would head out and collect berries, nuts, roots, tubers, fruit, eggs, and honey. It took real skill and a deep knowledge of hundreds of different plants, but it was reliable, social, and far less dangerous than the hunt. A few hours of gathering could feed the whole family. The hunting, meanwhile, was not some daily 9 to 5. Hunts were unpredictable. Sometimes the hunters would track an animal for hours, or even days, and come back with absolutely nothing. Other times they would return with a feast. So hunting was more like occasional bursts of intense effort, followed by long stretches of doing very little at all. There was a huge amount of sitting, watching, and patiently waiting involved. It was simply not constant work. When food did come in, it was shared. There were no fridges, no real way to store a fresh kill for long, so the answer was beautifully simple. Eat it together, right now. The whole group shared the meat and the gathered food between them. And this sharing was not just kindness, it was survival insurance. If you share your lucky kill today, then someone shares with you when you come back empty-handed tomorrow. Meals were a warm community event, not a sad lunch alone at a desk. And now for the part that really surprises people. After the food was handled, most of the day was simply free. Genuine, real leisure time. They rested in the shade during the heat of the afternoon. They took naps. They lounged around the camp. They had hours and hours with nothing they were forced to do. No emails, no overtime, no second job waiting. Just time to exist, to be with their people, and to do whatever they actually felt like doing. Of course, they were not completely idle. A lot of that free time went into making things. They would sit and carefully chip away at stone to craft a perfect blade or a spear point. They wove baskets and nets, sewed clothing from animal hides, carved tools out of bone and antler, and repaired their gear. But this was slow, skilled, hands-on work, very often done together while chatting. It was much more like a relaxing hobby than a stressful job. But maybe the single biggest activity of all was simply talking. Ancient humans were intensely, deeply social creatures. They spent enormous amounts of time just sitting together, talking, joking, arguing, and yes, gossiping about each other. And this was not a waste of time at all. Gossip was the social glue that held the whole group together. It let everyone know who could be trusted, who was lazy, and who was generous. Relationships were absolutely everything, and they invested hours into them every single day. As the sun went down, the entire group gathered around the fire. And this is where the real magic happened. They told stories, with no books and no writing of any kind. Everything that truly mattered, the myths, the history, the maps of the land, the hard lessons of survival. All of it was passed down through storytelling. The elders held the knowledge of the entire tribe inside their heads. A night by the fire was not just entertainment, it was the library, the school, and the cinema all rolled into one. And they absolutely knew how to have fun. Archaeologists have found flutes carved from bird bone over 40,000 years old. So there was music. There was dancing late into the night. There were games and little toys for the children. They painted spectacular art deep inside dark caves. They decorated their bodies with paint and beads, and they made beautiful jewelry. These were not grim, joyless survivors. They were people who sang, played, created, and celebrated, just like we still do today. And what about the children? Ancient kids did not go to school. They learned absolutely everything through play and imitation. They would run around, copy whatever the adults were doing, play with little tools, and slowly soak up all the skills they would one day need. And they were not raised by just two exhausted parents either. The whole group helped raise every single child. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, and friends all pitched in. A childhood really was a whole village, not a daycare. And finally, sleep. Without electric lights and glowing screens to keep them up half the night, ancient humans generally slept more than we do. And they slept better, drifting off not long after dark. Some evidence even suggests they may have slept in two shifts, waking for a quiet hour in the middle of the night to talk softly, tend the fire, or just think before drifting back to sleep. Their rest was tied to the natural rhythm of the world, not to a buzzing phone on the nightstand. So what did ancient humans do all day? They woke gently with the sun, gathered and hunted for a few hours, and then spent the entire rest of their time resting, crafting, talking, playing, and telling stories around the fire. They had far less than we do. No comfort, no medicine, and no real safety. But they had something that we keep desperately chasing and never quite seem to catch: time and each other. So the next time you are still stuck at your desk at 6 in the evening, just remember your caveman ancestor was probably already done for the day, napping happily in the sun. Like this video if you would trade places and stay curious.